Gauranitai. Okay, so we are now being shown the temple room, I guess. So, yeah, that is some chairs. Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada. Prabhupada. Jai Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Jai.
Founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Jai. Thank you, Prabhu, for giving us such a nice tour of this so beautiful temple. Jai, His Holiness Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Maharaj ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Is that Anupam Govinda Prabhu? Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare. Jai, Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. Oh, these are the bright students and devotees in our ISKCON Cultural Center. Hare Krishna. Wonderful. So here's Hare Krishna. Can you hear us? And Maharaj is on mute.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Jaya Jagana, Jagana, Bhavale, Jaya Subhadra. Bhavale, Jaya Subhadra. Jaya Gauranitai, 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 Jaya Gauranitai. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Shiva Prabhupada. Jai Gaura Premanande, Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivraja Kacharya Stotra Sata Shishi Mata Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Sri Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shivaridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Sakahu Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dama Ki Jai Shri Madhvipa Dama Ki Jai Ganga Maya Ki Jai Yamuna Maya Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Sankirtana Yagya Ki Jai Shri Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Mahagrantha Ki Jai. Oh, glory to the Lord.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj.
So we're continuing with our discussion on the structure of Srimad Bhagavatam, and we came to a crucial point in our discussion. Now we are facing a big problem. How to understand the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the essence and ashraya, the most important topic of the whole Srimad Bhagavatam. In fact, was spoken by Srila Sukadeva Goswami for us to understand properly the 10th canto. And nevertheless, despite tremendous endeavors of Srila Sukadeva Goswami and Srila Vyasadeva to explain this topic of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, very few people really understood this topic, us included. So therefore, today, since this description of the 10th canto will take probably 4 or maybe even 5 lectures, or maybe even more, let's see how it goes. I'll try to do it every Saturday. But today I wanted to do the introduction to this topic, and for that I will read a few verses from Sri Caitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 25. The residents of Varanasi become Vaishnavas. Please listen very carefully. Krishna Tattva Bhakti Tattva Prema Tattva Sar Bhava Tattva Rasa Tattva Lila Tattva Ar. Text number 265. Krishna consciousness means understanding the truth of Krishna, the truth of devotional service, Krishna Tattva Bhakti Tattva, the truth of love of Godhead, Prema Tattva, the truth of emotional ecstasy, Bhava Tattva, the truths of transcendental mellows, rasa tattva, and the truths of the pastimes of the Lord, Lila tattva. In other words, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami stresses here that it's not so easy to understand tattva, the philosophy behind everything, and 10th canto and the whole of Srimad Bhagavatam is about this, about Bhakti Tattva and Krishna Tattva and Prema Tattva and Bhava Tattva. So we should first, and Lila Tattva, of course, we should first, and Rasa Tattva, we should first try to understand these tattvas very systematically. Sri Bhagavata Tattvaras, Korila Prachare, Krishna Tulya Bhagavata, Janaila Samsare. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu has personally preached the transcendental truths and mellows of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam and the Supreme Personality of Godhead are identical, for Srimad Bhagavatam is the sound incarnation of Sri Krishna. So if somebody thinks that he can understand Srimad Bhagavatam easily just by reading letters, he is a big fool, because Srimad Bhagavatam is not just a collection of letters or sounds or even meanings which can be perceptible by our mind. Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna Tulya Bhagavata. So, Janaila Samsari, he comes here and he is equal to Krishna, Krishna Tulya Bhagavata. Srimad Bhagavatam manifests himself in this material world. Bhakta lagi vishtarila apana vadane kahan bhakta mukhe kahai sunila apane. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu broadcast the purport of Srimad Bhagavatam. He sometimes spoke for the benefit of his devotees and sometimes empowered one of his devotees to speak while he listened. Purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Prabhupada. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, as an ideal teacher or acharya, explained Srimad Bhagavatam very elaborately himself. He sometimes also empowered his devotees to speak while he listened. This is the way an acharya should train his disciples. Not only should he describe the Bhagavata cult personally, but he should also train his disciples to speak on this sublime subject. And we all, of course, can see that this is how Prabhupada arranged his mission. Sri Caitanya Samara Kripalovadanya Bhakta Vatsalana Deki Trijagati Anyam. All sane men within these three worlds certainly accept the conclusion that no one is more merciful and magnanimous than Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and that no one is as kind to his devotees. Shraddha Kori Ei Lila Shuna Bhakti Gan Ihara Prasadi Paiba Chaitanya Charan. All devotees should hear about Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's pastimes with faith and love. By the grace of the Lord, one can thus attain the shelter of his lotus feet. Ihara Prasadi Paiba Krishna Tattvasar Sarva Shastra Siddhantera Ihan Paiba Par. By understanding the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, one can understand the truth about Krishna. So this Krishna Tattva, which was mentioned in the beginning, is only possible if we can understand Ihara Prasadi Paiba, Krishna Tattva Sar, by concentrating on Chaitanya Charana, on the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. By understanding Krishna, one can understand the limit of all knowledge described in various revealed scriptures. There is one more verse and two more purports. As Lord Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Manushyanam sahasrisu kaschid yatati siddhaya yatatam apisidanam kaschinmam veti tattvataha. Of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection, and of those who have achieved perfection, hardly one knows me in truth. Srila Prabhupada stresses this point that it's very difficult to understand Krishna Tattva, the real nature of Krishna. It is very difficult to understand Krishna, but if one tries to understand Srimad Bhagavatam through Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's bhakti cult, one will undoubtedly understand Krishna very easily. If somehow or other one understands Krishna, his life is successful. Again, as Krishna states in Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chamedi vyam yoveti tatvataha. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. And the last verse which we read today, Krishna Lila Amritsar, Tarasata Shattadhar, Dashadike, Avaheyahat Haite, Sri Caitanya Lila Hoy, Saravara Akshoy, Manahamsa Charahata Hate. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Prabhupada. The pastimes of Lord Krishna are the essence of all nectar. Krishna Lila Amritsar. And that nectar is flowing in hundreds of rivers in all directions. Tarashata Shatadhar. The pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are an eternal reservoir, and one is advised to let his mind swim like a swan in this transcendental lake. So he says, very interesting metaphor is here. Krishnadas Kaviraja Goswami says that there are so many Lilas of Krishna, and they're fast flowing, and it's very difficult to understand them. So what we should do in the beginning, he says, we should go to the lake of Sri Caitanya Lila, which is still, which is, in other words, which is more easily understandable. And we should dwell in this lake of Lord Chaitanya's Lila like a swan in this transcendental lake. And very important purport by Srila Prabhupada, which is actually the reason why I chosen this part of Chaitanya Charitamrita to be read today. The essence of spiritual knowledge is found in the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, which are identical with the pastimes of Lord Krishna. This is the essence of knowledge. If knowledge does not include the understanding of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna, it is simply superfluous. By Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's grace, the nectar of Lord Sri Krishna's pastimes is flowing in different directions in hundreds and thousands of rivers. One should not think that the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu are different from Lord Krishna's pastimes. It is said, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a combination of Radha and Krishna. Thus, without understanding the pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, one cannot understand Radha and Krishna. Srila Narottama Das Thakur therefore sings, Rupa Raghunatha Pade Hoi Beakuti Kabehama Bujaba Se Jugala Piriti. When shall I become very eager to study the books left by the 6 Goswamis? Then I shall be able to understand the conjugal pastimes of Radha and Krishna. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu directly empowers Srila Rupa Goswami and Srila Sanatana Goswami. Following in their footsteps, the other Goswamis understood Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his mission. One should understand Sri Krishna Chaitanya and Lord Sri Krishna from the 6 Goswamis in the Parampara system. The Krishna consciousness movement is following as strictly as possible to the footsteps of the Goswamis. Narottama Das Thakur says, Echai Gosai Yanra Mui Tandra Das. I am the servant of the 6 Goswamis. The philosophy of Krishna consciousness is to become the servant of the servant of the servant of the Lord. Whoever wants to understand the difficult subject matter of Krishna Katha should accept the disciplic succession. If one is somehow or other able to understand Krishna, his life is successful. Tyaktva punarjanmanaiti mameti sorjuna. A perfect devotee is able to understand Krishna through the disciplic succession, and his entrance into the kingdom of God is thereby certainly opened. When one understands Krishna, there is no difficulty in transferring oneself to the spiritual kingdom. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Vinadine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhudevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Ajanam Pujo Nakavadat Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamalai Taksha Vishwambaro Dvijavaro Yugadharma Pavande Jagat Vyakaro Yandah Pravishya Mamavachi Mamam Prasuttam Sanjivaya Kiva Shakti Darasvadam Anyam Shahasta Charanam Shravanam Pavagadim Anandamam Bhagavate Purushaya Tubhim Svasvasya Vishwasya Kalach Prasidatam Leantush Putani Shivam Vidhuya Manascha Padram Vajata Dokshaji Aveshatinam Mandiranyaya Tuki. So as I said, today we will start this topic by first understanding the methodology, how we can understand this very difficult subject matter. Seemingly, Krishna's pastimes are very simple. So much so that somebody made a cartoon out of Krishna's pastimes. Famous. He happened to be from here. Srila Prabhupada was dead against this. He didn't like it. Many devotees suggested to him, why don't we make a nice cartoon out of Krishna's pastimes? Srila Prabhupada was against it. He didn't like it because he knew that, it will give people a wrong impression that they can understand Krishna. And actually, Krishna is just like a cartoon hero. He's just like a little cartoon hero. They will not understand the depths and the inner meaning of Krishna's pastimes. Instead, they will have an illusion that I already know Krishna's pastimes. I heard it so many times. So first of all, we have to be very careful about the methodology, how we can understand Krishna's pastimes, which is not easy. The brightest intelligence in the universe are trying to decipher the pastimes of Lord Krishna in Srimad Bhagavatam. So many commentaries are written. Madhusudan Saraswati, and Gopadev, and Siddhar Swami, and Madhvacharya, and Viraragavacharya, and Vijayadvacha Tirtha, and so many. Giridhari Lal Goswami from Vallabha Sampradaya. And they write, and of course, Sanatana Goswami, Jiva Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, they write elaborate commentaries. But Lord Shiva will say that you cannot understand Srimad Bhagavatam by commentaries. We will study this verse today as well. It's just for us not to be misled by the apparent simplicity of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And therefore, Sri Krishna himself, he stresses in the verse which Srila Prabhupada quotes twice in this section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tattvataha. Sometimes we think, oh yeah, I know, I already know Janma and karma of Krishna. Not without a reason, he says tattvataha, in truth. And therefore, in the first verse which we read today, it is said that we should understand Krishna Tattva first, and then Bhakti Tattva, and then Prema Tattva, and then Rasa Tattva, and then Bhava Tattva, and then Lila Tattva. So, to understand this in truth, as he is, as Prabhupada is stressing here, we should join the Parampara system. We should become the servant of the servant of the servant within this Parampara system. And therefore, it's very peculiar that in the 4th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says this, Janma karma chale divyam evam yoveti tattvataha tyaktvateham punar janma naiti mameti sorjuna. In the beginning, he says this, Janma karma chame divyam evam yoveti tattvataha. Those who know in tattva, in truth, the pastimes of Lord Krishna and his birth, and they will go to me without any doubts. But then, at the end of this chapter, he says what? Tadvidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya upadikshyanti te gyanam gyaninas tattvadarshana. In the same, in the beginning he says, yes, you should understand it in truth. How to understand it in truth? Tadvidi pranipatena pariprasnena sevaya. Once Prabhupada was speaking with Guru Kripa, and he asked Guru Kripa, please tell me, what is the most important verse of all the scriptures? What is the most important verse? What is the most important verse? Please tell me. Huh? So what is the verse? What is the verse?
What is the verse?
Verse. Srila Prabhupada said, what is the most important shloka from the scriptures? Tastat Gurum Prapadita. He didn't say this, but it's, yeah. You're almost there. Ete Chamshakalach Pumsa, yes. Guru Kripa said to Srila Prabhupada that the most important verse, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nameva Kevalam, Hello, Nastyeva, Nastyeva, Gatiranyatha. Srila Prabhupada said, no. And Srila Prabhupada was very strong, no. So Guru Kripa was flabbergasted. Yeah, what is the most important verse? And Prabhupada says, Yasyadeve parabhaktir yathadeve tatha guru. Tasyaiva kathita hyartham prakashate mahatmanaha. This verse from Shvetashvatara Upanishad says that you should have the devotion to the Lord and exactly the same devotion to your spiritual master. Yasyadeve tatha guru. And then only prakashante mahatmanaha. Tasyaite kathita hyartha. The meaning of all these kathas, of all these statements of Krishna will become clear, of all these statements of the scriptures will become clear. There's no other way, there is no other way, there is no other way. So, but actually Srila Prabhupada is stressing the need to accepting Parampara system, but he does not specify, which of course he says 6 Goswamis, so it's implied that this is Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's Parampara. And in this talk today, I will try to prove in a very impartial way that the understanding which we can get in this Parampara system is unique, is absolutely unique, is absolutely exclusive. No other parampara, even though this Srimad Bhagavatam is revered and studied in all the paramparas, in all Vaishnava lines, but nowhere this completely unique understanding of, especially of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and Srimad Bhagavatam as a whole, is given as, or revealed as in our parampara, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Therefore, it is stressed here that only by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu you will be able to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam. And let's try to examine a little bit this point. Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati, he says, very interesting, 2 verses of Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati are very, very important for us. He says, Araditam navavanam vrajakhananam te, naraditam navavanam vraja eva dure. Araditam navavanam. If you worship navavanam, what is navavanam? Navadvip. Araditam navavanam vrajakhananam te. Then Vrajakhanana, the forest of Vrindavan, will be yours. It means you will be able to enter into the forest of Vrindavan. And he says, Naradita Navavanam Vraja eva dure. But if you don't worship Navadvip Dham, if you don't worship the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started his pastimes, then Vraja eva dure. Vraja will be very far from you, much further than Bangalore from Uttar Pradesh. It will not be reachable by you. Vraja eva dure. So he stresses this point. Only if you worship Navadvip or you worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, if you worship this pastimes of love which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifests, only then you will be able to understand this. And then he says, Aradita dvijasuto vrajanagaraste naradita dvijasuto nataveha Krishna. So what does it mean? Aradita dvijasuto, if you worship Vijasuta, the son of Brahmana. Who is son of Brahmana? Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, son of Jagannatha Mishra. Aradita Vijasuto Vrajanagaraste. Then Vrajanagara, the lover, the paramour of Raj will be yours. You will be able to enter into personal contact with Krishna, who is displaying this Parakiya rasa in Vrindavan. Naradita dvijasuto nataveha Krishna, natava iha Krishna. This Krishna will never be yours. Nataveha Krishna. You may reach Krishna. You may reach Krishna. We are not sectarian. We are very generous. Yes, you may reach Krishna, but you will not reach Vraja Krishna in Vrindavan. You will not reach Vrajanagara Krishna. You will reach some other Krishna. There are so many Krishnas. Krishna is not alone. There are so many different aspects of Krishna. You will be thinking about Krishna, 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 and then, to your surprise, well, not to your surprise, but you will reach Nrisimhadev. Because by saying Krishna, Krishna, you mean Nrisimhadev. So here Prabodhananda Saraswati, he stresses this point. The only way to obtain the highest conception of Krishna, the highest understanding of Krishna, is to worship Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Aradita dvijasuto vrajanagaraste. And the next verse is extremely important, also from Chaitanya Chandramrita. Srimad Bhagavatasya yatra paramam tatparyam utankitam Sri Vayasakina. Because one can get some doubts. Why do we need Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? Srila Vyasadeva wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Sukadev Goswami, he explains Srimad Bhagavatam in a very palatable way. Pibata Bhagavatam rasa malayam Sukamukhat amritat drava samyutam. He came directly from the lips of Sukadev Goswami and became drava. Drava means became liquid. It means that it flows itself. This verse of Srimad Bhagavatam says that it's very easy to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. This rasa just flows itself. You don't need to do anything. You know, Srimad Bhagavatam is a ripened fruit. There is no skin. There is no bija. There is no stone inside. Just liquid. Just drink. You know, even if you take manga, you still have to chew a little bit. But Srimad Bhagavatam, you don't have to chew. Nothing to chew. It's already taken by Sukadev Goswami. So you may have this doubt that, you know, how is it? How is it in according to this third verse of Srimad Bhagavatam? So here, Prabodhananda Saraswati explains, please listen very carefully. Srimad Bhagavatasya yatra paramam tatparyam utankitam Sri Vayasakina Duran Vayataya Rasa Prasangi Piyat Sri Radha Rati Keli Nagara Rasasvadaika Sadbhajanam Tadvastu Prathanaya Gauravapusha Loke Avartino Harihi. He says here that Hari, Lord Krishna himself, he avatirnaha. He came to this world for which purpose Gaurava Pushe, accepting this Gaurava Pushe, the body of Lord Gauranga, Tadvastu Prathanaya, to show this Vastu, which was hidden, despite the seeming easiness or palatability of Srimad Bhagavatam. Still, it was difficult. Why? Srimad Bhagavatasya yatra paramam tatparyam utankitam, because Sivayasakina Duranvayataya rasa prasangitiya. The essence of Srimad Bhagavatam was explained by Srila Sukadev Goswami in a very cryptic way and in a very short way, without elaboration, without proper elaboration. This tatparya, the real essence of Srimad Bhagavatasya, paramam tatparyam, the highest meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, was explained due to very serious reasons by the son of Vyasadeva, Vayasakina, Duran Vayataya. It's difficult to understand. In Rasa Prasangi, he said this, but he didn't elaborate on this because he was shy. He was too shy. He didn't want to explain all these intimate subject matters which are there in this Rasa Prasanga, in the context of Rasa dance. Yad Radha Keli, Radha Rati Keli Nagara, Rasasvadaika Sadbhajanam. Whereas you will only be able to really do bhajan to Krishna, really to worship Krishna as he is, in his true form. If you understand Radharati Keli Nagara Rasasvadaika, yes, only if you asvada, if you will get the taste. But Srila Sukadev Goswami didn't really get into it. And we will understand again why and how, why it is so. So he only, Utankitam, very briefly he explained this subject matter, not elaborately enough. And therefore Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu himself came Prathanaya. For which purpose? Tadvastu Prathanaya, to show this Vastu. The very reason or cause of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in this world is to show the what Srimad Bhagavatam is all about. And without him, we will never be able to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Without Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and this is not an exaggeration, because if you only try to understand Srimad Bhagavatam intellectually, you will for sure fail, 100% fail. And at the same time, you will be able to think that, oh, I know Srimad Bhagavatam. I know Srimad Bhagavatam. These intellectual attempts are completely futile because the Vastu, the Vastavam Vastu, which is the real subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, will be elusively hidden from us. And therefore, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in his commentary to the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, he says that Srimad Bhagavatam is like a lamp. He illuminates everything. Srimad Bhagavatam is like a sun. He makes everything clear. Srimad Bhagavatam is like ripened fruit. But Srimad Bhagavatam is also like Mahini Murti. So if you think that only Srimad Bhagavatam is like the sun, okay, fine. But Srimad Bhagavatam is also like Mahini Murti. You can read the Srimad Bhagavatam and you will be deprived the real nectar as much as Mahini Murti deprived people. If you don't really clearly tune up your mind or your consciousness or your heart towards the subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam will not be the sun for you. It will be Mahini Murti. Mahini Murti will show you, here's the pot of nectar. And then, okay, she will run away with the pot of nectar. And you will sit there and say, you know, what happened? Where is the nectar? And isn't it sometimes our case? You know, we hear Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam, and we read Srimad Bhagavatam and we say, where is the ras? Where is the juice? Again, cheating. You know, the advertisement was there. Here is the ras, here is the juice. No juice. We are bored and we say, oh, no, my goodness, again, prayers. How many times I should listen to this? So we are living proof of this statement of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that Srimad Bhagavatam is like Mahini Murti. We are being cheated of Srimad Bhagavatam. And as I said, Lord Shiva again says this very interestingly. Please listen carefully to what Lord Shiva wants to say. He says, Aham vedmi shuko veti vyaso veti naveti va. He says, I know Srimad Bhagavatam. Shukadev Goswami knows Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasa, he may know Srimad Bhagavatam, may not know Srimad Bhagavatam. Vyasadeva wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. But Lord Shiva says, no, I'm not sure whether he knows Srimad Bhagavatam or not. So what does he mean? He means that, you know, when Shukadev Goswami speaks the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, the inner meaning of these verses is revealed to him. Whereas when Vyasadeva speaks Srimad Bhagavatam, it may be revealed, maybe not. Therefore, Vyasadeva was sitting right there when Shukadev Goswami was describing Srimad Bhagavatam. So you can only understand Srimad Bhagavatam by hearing, not by others means, and therefore he says, Bhaktya Bhagavatam Grahyam na Buddhya na Chatikaya. You can only understand Srimad Bhagavatam by bhakti. Bhaktya Bhagavatam Grahyam. You can only grahan, you can only catch Srimad Bhagavatam by bhakti, na Buddhya na Chatikaya. Not by your intelligence, or not by even studying the tikas, the commentaries, imaginary commentaries. You may give commentaries yourself, you will not be able to understand. Srila Prabhupada gives, this is the verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita quoted, and Srila Prabhupada stresses this little short purport he writes to this verse. Devotional service includes 9 processes, beginning with hearing, chanting, and remembering the activities of Lord Vishnu. Only one who has taken to devotional service can understand Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the spotless Purana for transcendentalists, Paramahamsas. So-called commentaries are useless for this purpose. According to the Vedic injunction, Yasyadeve parabhaktir yathadeve tatha guru, the Vedic literature maintains that Srimad Bhagavatam has to be learned from the person Bhagavatam. And to understand, one has to engage in pure devotional service. Srimad Bhagavatam cannot be understood by so-called erudite scholars or grammarians. One who has developed pure Krishna consciousness has served the pure devotee. The spiritual master can understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Others cannot. So here I want to also read to you a few very important and very deep, profound statements by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. Very, very important. Because he wrote an essay, he or Nishikant Sanyal, his disciple, but you know, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada would put his signature under everything which Dr. Nishikant Sanyal would write. And sometimes, you know, it's indistinguishable who wrote this particular essay. So this is the essay which is called Understanding the Eternal Truth of Srimad Bhagavatam, or something like this. I don't remember the exact name of this. But please listen, it's very interesting. He says that our attempts to understand Srimad Bhagavatam by empirical means, it means that by our intelligence, by our eyes, by our ears, and so on and so forth, will for sure fail. Please listen. The eternal truth has been made manifest to this world by Sri Vyasadeva in the narrative of the pastimes of Raja. But the real nature of the truth cannot be realized by means of knowledge born of the senses. Yes, Vyasadeva explained everything in the pastimes of Raja, which is the subject matter of the 10th canto. But the real nature of the truth cannot be realized by the means of knowledge born of the senses, by empirical means. The knowledge is spontaneously experienced by the pure essence of the individual soul in his exclusive state, samadhi. This knowledge, you can only understand, reading 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, you can only understand if you're in samadhi. Because Srimad Bhagavatam is written in samadhi bhasha. This is the language of samadhi. So only if you are in samadhi, you can understand the language of samadhi. Only if you are from Karnataka, you will understand Canada. Right? So you should know the language which people speak in this land. What is the land which you should know? What is the language which you should know to understand Srimad Bhagavatam? You should know the language of Samadhi, because it's written in Samadhi Bhasha. There are, however, pseudo-exclusive states which must not be confounded with the spiritual condition proper, in which there is no presence of any mundane element. So you can only understand Srimad Bhagavatam if you're completely free from any mundane element or any materialistic ideas. In this state, the truth becomes self-manifest by the operation of the spiritual potency of divinity. This truth of Srimad Bhagavatam will be revealed to you by the supreme energy, by the descent of the supreme energy of the Lord. It can only be revealed if you are in a proper condition. This phenomenal world is the distorted, unwholesome reflection. Okay, that's okay. The substantive reality in the forms of name, form, quality, pastimes, and the distinctive personality of his paraphernalia make their appearance to the soul in his exclusive state, samadhi. So, actually, in this essay, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, by trying to stress this point, he gives a very beautiful comparison. He says, what is described there in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, in Vraja Lila? In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, we see how Kamsa from Mathura is sending one demon after another to kill Krishna, to Vraj. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada says that this constant attempts of Kamsa to send demons to Vraj to kill Krishna is actually, what is Mathura, he says? Mathura is the city of knowledge. And Kamsa is the materialistic intelligence which lives there in the city of knowledge. And he's sending all the demons to Vraj is actually the attempts to understand Srimad Bhagavatam by empirical means, by intellectual means. But actually what he wants to do, he wants to kill Krishna. He doesn't want to understand Krishna. He doesn't want to love Krishna, to obtain love of Krishna. He only sends all these demons. I will read this, this excerpt from there. There is a historical ground for such misgivings, for all the doubts which may have. Accordingly, if the empiric domination is to be preserved intact, it would be necessary not to lose a moment to put down the transcendental heresy, the instant to the threat. The instant it threatens to make the appearance in the earnest. I'm sure you will not don't understand anything. But the idea here is that those people who maintain that you can understand Srimad Bhagavatam by some empirical means or by your senses and intelligence, they constantly try to attack Srimad Bhagavatam by their intelligence, as much as Kamsa is trying to attack Krishna by all these demons. King Kamsa, acting on this traditional fear that we really understand Krishna, is never slow to take the scientific precaution in deputing empiric teachers of the scriptures, backed by the resources of dictionary and grammar and all empiric subtleties, to put down by slow of specious arguments based on the hypothetical principles, the true interpretation of the eternal religion revealed by the scriptures. So he basically says that all these demons, they're like scholars who are trying to understand Srimad Bhagavatam by the means of their erudition, by the dictionaries, by the grammar, by all the subtleties which they're, explaining there. He says they're just like demons. And this is Kamsa, this is the scientific method employed by Kamsa to kill Krishna, to kill the real essence of these pastimes. Very strong languages he used. And again, those who are in the intellectual condition are required to free themselves from those offenses which are found in the sphere of Madhura. In other words, we all have little offensive mentality. We all rely on our ability to understand. Isn't it? I can understand this, no problem. No problem. So he says, this is the offense. This is the offense which is living in Madhura, in this city of knowledge, which is serving Kamsa, which is atheism. So what again and again, what he wants to say is that it's not futile, it's offensive to try to understand Srimad Bhagavatam by the normal means. We have to completely free ourselves from these attempts, which are ultimately offensive towards Lord Krishna. We will not be able to understand Krishna, and we will commit offenses. And then that's another article, beautiful article by Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. He says very interestingly, this is important, please, that you may try to remember. He says, if we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, but we are not really prepared to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, and we still try to employ our intelligence in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, then the real purport which the author of Srimad Bhagavatam, Sukadeva Goswami or Vyasadeva, wants to give us will not be understood by us. Instead, we may get 4 kinds of distorted knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam. please, again, as I said, it's important. The distorted knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, the real knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam is that the truth will be revealed to us. We will just see how Krishna is running in the meadows of Vrindavan and how he's playing with his friends and how he's showing universal form in his mouth, and we will really understand this. We will see this in a proper way. But if we try to employ or apply our intellectual abilities instead of trying to absorb Srimad Bhagavatam by the service mood. So, in other words, when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam, that's our service. That's a very important service which we do, and that's we should be in the state of service, not in the state, now I will be able to grasp this intellectually. So he says that instead 4 types of wrong knowledge will appear within our heart. The first knowledge is called fragmental knowledge, parichinna jnana. In other words, what will happen? You will read Srimad Bhagavatam and you will get this piece of information, that piece of information. Little parichinna means little, bites of information. And you will remember everything and you will even tell this to other people. But this is parichinna jnana. This is not the knowledge which is complete in itself. Like Krishna is advaya jnana. He is non-dual. You cannot really cut Krishna into pieces. But if you apply the material method of understanding Srimad Bhagavatam, you will cut Srimad Bhagavatam into pieces. But you cannot cut Srimad Bhagavatam into pieces because he is just one whole. Even little tiny soul cannot be cut into pieces. What to speak about Krishna? He is not cuttable. He is not digestible by cutting him into pieces. Like, to digest the vegetables, we have to cut the vegetable into pieces. So the people, they cut Srimad Bhagavatam into pieces. This is called Bhakti Vaibhav. Bhakti. Sometimes, I don't want to denigrate these endeavors. They are very glorious endeavors, but we have to really understand that this is not really, this is not, we have to understand the specialty of this method of understanding Srimad Bhagavatam through Parampara system. Not to cut into pieces means you may have, very good grasp of what was going on there, and still it will be parichinna jnana. It will be just piecemeal Srimad Bhagavatam. The Srimad Bhagavatam, which is nicely cut into nice cubes and digested. So this is the first type of wrong knowledge. The second type of wrong knowledge, which you may get by trying to understand Srimad Bhagavatam in this way, is called contracted knowledge, sankirna jnana. You will get a very, sankirna means it's a very meager sort of knowledge. You will not get the full understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. A little bit you will get, sankirna jnana, very narrow sort of knowledge. The third kind of knowledge which you may get in this way, distorted knowledge, vikrita jnana, means this is very common. You hear something and it's completely distorted in your mind, and you get a completely different impression of what is being said. You will not be able to understand what is the relationship between Krishna and the Gaudis, what are all these demons, and and you will only get this little cartoon of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is what will go on in your mind. And then the fourth kind of distorted knowledge is vivarta grasta jnana. Vivarta grasta. Vivarta means when you see the rope and you think it's a snake. So you will have the gyan, but it will be vivarta grasta gyan. You will think it's the real gyan, but you will not see the rope. You only see the snake. You will see something different. Your interpretation or your understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam will be completely wrong. So this is the different varieties of knowledge which you may get. You can choose which one you want. Parichina Gyana, Vivartagrasta Gyana, or Vikrita Gyana, the distorted knowledge, or Sankirna Gyana, but you will not get the full knowledge. So that's how Sri Caitanya, how Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was so emphatic on this point, because so many people read Srimad Bhagavatam. So many people give, if you go to Vrindavan, on every corner there is some advertisement. Sometimes big advertisement, sometimes small advertisement, according to the, extent of the ego of the speaker, So they explain this. No. And, old ladies, they come and they sit and they, oh, very nice, very nice. And then they go back and drink their tea and coffee. And nothing changes, nothing happens. No revelation of Krishna. So basically, we have to have proper mood. Because when we hear, we don't hear what is being said. What is being said is filtered through the mood which we have. If we're angry, and the mood which Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu does is this mood of prema. Why meditation on Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu is so important? Because by understanding his pastimes, we can understand what is prema. And then while listening Srimad Bhagavatam, we will listen it through this media of prema, of love of God. And we will be able to hear something which we will never be able to hear otherwise. I wanted to tell the story, but I will not tell the story. So, therefore, this is the method. Here is the method which is described by Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami or by Swarup Damodar Goswami in the Anti-Lila of Sri Caitanya Charitamrita. The method to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. This is the formula. This formula is given by Swarup Damodar Goswami to Bengali Brahmana who came and who wanted to read to Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu his kavya, his poem about Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and about Lord Jagannath. And we know how severely he was chastised by Swarup Damodar Goswami. But when Swarup Damodar Goswami became little peaceful, he gave the method to this Brahman. Basically, what he says here is that you think that you understood Bhagavatam, you didn't understand Bhagavatam, you fool. And therefore, you wrote this, very flowery kavya, and this kavya is full of mistakes and full of rasavas and full of all the inconsistencies. And you don't even understand that it's full of inconsistencies. You're so happy about your own creation. So he says, please listen very carefully. Yaha Bhagavata Purana, Vaishnaverastani, Ekanta Ashraya Kara, Chaitanya Charani. This is the formula. Yaha Bhagavata Purana, Vaishnaverastani. If you want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, you should go to the place where Vaishnava live. You should go to the lotus feet of a Vaishnava. You should find the Vaishnava, real Vaishnava. The real undivided, exclusive Vaishnava. And at the same time, Ekanta Ashraya Kora Chaitanya Charani. By listening this Vaishnava, how he explains the meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, at the same time, you should take the exclusive shelter, Ekanta Ashraya Kora Chaitanya Charani, of Chaitanya Charan, of his lotus feet, of the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Srila Prabhupada translates this. If you want to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, You must approach a self-realized Vaishnava and hear from him. You can do this when you have completely taken shelter of the lotus feet of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. So again, the same point is stressed. This should be exclusive shelter of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And the real relationship with his follower. Exclusive shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his pastimes when we again and again read them. And at the same time, the real service mood to the Vaishnava who speaks Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he says, Chaitanyara Bhakta Ganar, Nitya Kara Sangha. Please always be in association with Chaitanyara Bhakta Gan, with the followers of Sri Caitanya. Please be in the society of the devotees. Tabira Janiba Siddhanta Samudra Taranga. Only then you will be able to swim in this Siddhanta Samudra Taranga. You will be able to feel this Taranga, the waves of Siddhanta Samudra, of this vast ocean of Siddhanta. So basically the three conditions are there. You should take exclusive shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You should go to a Vaishnava and learn Srimad Bhagavatam from him, and you should always be in the association of the followers of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Then only you will be able to understand what does it mean, because Srimad Bhagavatam itself in the very beginning says, what is the qualification to understand Srimad Bhagavatam? Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. You can only understand Srimad Bhagavatam if you are Nirmatsara. And if you're Kritibih means you are accomplished, as Prabhupada translates this verse. Sushrusubis, you have to be eager and you have to be accomplished. It means that you have to be mature in your relationship. You have to be determined. Sushrusubih, you have to be eager. This is one qualification. You have to be Kritibih, you have to get initiation or whatever. You have to really have this service mood. And then Nirmatsaranam Satam, you have to be completely free. You have to be peaceful, not disturbed, not just, what should I do next? My IT project is waiting for me, No, completely peaceful Satam and Nirmatsaranam. No envy whatsoever. As we spoke about Ramayana also, that should not be envy. The very interesting, there is, I will describe a little episode from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which illustrates beautifully this point. And then I will explain the exclusive points, unique points of interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam, which are only found in our Sampradaya, nowhere else. Even though so many other commentaries are written to Srimad Bhagavatam. So we should read these commentaries of our acharyas, but with a proper mood and with how to understand this, that it's not just intellectual endeavor, it's just the mood. So this beautiful episode from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, how to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, is the Brahma Vimohana Lila, the illusion of Lord Brahma, which we will probably describe in details during this few lectures on the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's important. But at the end, what happened with Lord Brahma? It's a very interesting thing what happened with him. Lord Krishna, Lord Brahma was completely bewildered because he came 1 year later, and in his calculation, it was just 1 second later, and he saw Lord Krishna is dining with his friends on the bank of Yamuna. And Lord Brahma couldn't understand what's going on. So he went back to the cave where the friends of Lord Krishna and all the calves were there hidden, and he saw they're there. And then he went back to Yamuna, and he saw they're there. And he was thinking, what's going on? So he decided to look simultaneously. Two of his heads looked in the cave, and two of his heads were still looking into the bank of Yamuna. And he saw, the friends are there, the cows are there, the Krishna is there, and all his friends and cows are there, and they're dining. And then all of a sudden, when the bewilderment of Lord Brahma was very high, all of a sudden it went to another peak, because Lord Krishna manifested when all the cowherd boys and cows and Lord Krishna himself, they had the all, four-headed Narayanas were there. And not only this, all the material elements and the time, and Lord Brahma saw that each and every calf, which has become four-handed Lord Narayana, is being worshipped by many, many Brahmas. And he just couldn't understand what's going on, Many, many Brahmas and many Shivas, they worship each and every calf which is there. And, he became really bewildered, and he fainted. He just couldn't grasp it anymore. His heart just was not big enough to understand what's going on. So he fainted, and then he came back to the senses. His external consciousness came back to him, and he started looking around as normal man after he lost consciousness. He looks, and he looks in a completely different way. With great difficulty, he started looking around. And what he saw, Shukadeva Goswami says, at this time, he saw real Vrindavan. He saw the trees which are very beneficial and which are laden with all kinds of fruits. He saw that all the seasons of the year is there. And he saw all the animals in Vrindavan which are very friendly to each other. He saw mongoose and snake, and snake is, in a very friendly mood, was playing with mongoose, and mongoose was playing with the snake. He saw the tiger playing with the cows. Huge tiger was playing with cows as if they're best friends. And he saw all the human beings in Vrindavan whose heart is completely filled with love. He saw this vision of Vrindavan for a split second. And what he understood, I don't belong here. He didn't see this. He didn't see Vrindavan. He couldn't understand. So first Krishna manifested to him the Krishna Tattva in one sense, this Aishwarya Gyan Tattva, and then this Aishwarya Gyan was covered completely. Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maya ki jai, Shri Lakshmi Narasimha Deva ki jai, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. So what happened? Please listen very carefully, and that's one of the features which we should understand how it works, because the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they very minutely describe how the internal energy works within Vrindavan, completely inconceivable internal energy of the Lord to facilitate Krishna's pastimes. Because without understanding how Krishna's energy works, how the energy sometimes covers Krishna and his followers or inhabitants of Vrindavan, or sometimes uncovers them. How sometimes they understand that Krishna is God, sometimes they don't understand that Krishna is God, how sometimes Krishna understands that he is God, and how the next moment he completely forgets that he is God. How it works, and that's without knowledge of Krishna. It's not that Krishna says, okay, Yogamaya, do this. please now cover this, foolish people, and then I will display one pastime. No, Krishna himself is covered by Yogamaya. Krishna is not the ruler in Vrindavan. Who is the ruler of Vrindavan? Vrindadevi. Krishna is completely obedient to Vrindadevi. Krishna is dancing how Vrindadevi wants him to dance. This is what is also there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami quotes his own verse from Govinda Lilamrita in Chaitanya Charitamrita. We will study it later. When Vrindadevi goes somewhere and Srimati Radharani asks her, dear Vrindadevi, where did you go from? Where are you coming from? And she says, I'm coming from Radhakund. And what is there in Radhakund? Krishna is dancing there. Krishna is dancing there. Oh, really? No, Krishna is not dancing there. Krishna is learning how to dance there in Radhakund. And Radha is asking Vrindadevi, how is Krishna, who is Krishna's teacher? And he says, Sri Radha, your image, which are there in every creeper and tree, is the teacher which teaches Krishna how to dance. And Krishna is studying or learning this art of dancing from your images in Radhakund. And basically that's what is going on in Vrindavan. This what we should understand. How Vrindadevi, and therefore we worship Vrindadevi every day. If you go to Vrindavan and you see some Babaji's, what Babaji's do? Babaji, they try to cover their body with tulsi beads. Every Babaji, if he has less than 30 different beads in his neck, is not a bona fide Babaji. Because they say that's the only hope for us to understand Krishna, is to be in contact with Vrindadevi. She is the internal energy, and she gives the passage to Vrindavan. Unless we get the message, that's why we chant holy name on the tulsi bead. Why we should be in the tulsi bead? Because it's only Vrindadevi who can reveal to us Krishna and the real nature of Krishna's name. And we should worship first. According to strict Vaishnava Vidhi, we should first worship or pray to these beads, to Vrindadevi, so that she would reveal to us the holy name. Otherwise, we will just be left with the shadow of the holy name, not with the holy name proper. Madhu Pandit, the famous follower and contemporary of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who was the first pujari, sevait of Gopinath, his clothes is still there in Jaipur. This clothes is from the tulsi beads. It's the fine clothes which, the cover, because sometimes it's cold in Vrindavan, but it's all from the tiny, tiny tulsi beads. He made it himself. You can still see it in Gopinath Mandir. But basically, this is the point, that unless we get mercy of the internal energy of the Lord, we will not be able to enter into these pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And for that, we should serve the followers of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, and through the mercy of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, we will be able to understand real purport. But then, spoken so much about the futility of intellectual endeavors to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. Now I will glorify how we should intellectually understand this. And there is no contradiction, because we should employ our intelligence in trying to understand Srimad Bhagavatam according to the traditional line of Guru Parampara, in a service mood. Again, not because we are so intelligent, not because we are so, erudite scholars and we know this opinion and that opinion and we study. No, in a very humble way, we should try to hear the descriptions or the revelation which are given by the followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which they heard from himself, as the verse which we read states. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu sometimes explains Srimad Bhagavatam, which was the main purpose of his appearance in this earth, or sometimes he employed others and he was sitting and listening. So we will now learn in a very brief way, and then I will elaborate in next lectures, the unique features of Gaudya interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam. Again, no other sampradaya agrees to this. Why? Because only followers of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu can understand what he revealed. This is what he revealed. This is the highest truth, which is difficult to understand. They analyze Srimad Bhagavatam in a completely unique way. Nobody else did it. So the point number one is, of course, the most important way of interpreting the whole Srimad Bhagavatam is that Ete Chamsha Kalah Pumsah Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. So that's the first point which completely sets us aside from everyone else. Because what everyone else says, who is Krishna? Yeah, Krishna is God. Why? Because Narayana is God. And because Krishna is just Narayana avatar. There is Matsya, there is Kurma, there is Mohini Murti, there is Krishna. No, Ete Chamsha Kalah Pumsah Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. And that's a very big controversy, absolutely, even till now. Because if you say, who is Krishna? Krishna is Paramatma. Who is Paramatma? Paramatma is Kshirodakashaya Vishnu. And Kshirodakashaya Vishnu, as Paramatma, he sends all his Lila avatars. Lila avatars is just Paramatma. Who is Krishna? Krishna is Paramatma. Right? No. Ete Chamsha Kalah Pumsah Krishna Stu Bhagavan Swayam. So that's a cornerstone. And next lecture will be exclusively about this verse. Very interestingly. But this is the cornerstone of our understanding. Why? It's not just imagination. Why? How Srimad Bhagavatam himself or itself proves again and again and again that Ete Chamsha Kalah Pumsah, they are all parts and parcels of Krishna, the complete parts, plenary portions and portions of the portions, but Krishna too Bhagavan Swayam. He is Swayam Bhagavan. And what does it mean and why it is so important? This is the subject of the next lecture, of the next class, which hopefully, if everything goes right, will be next Saturday. So the next point, which is, again, completely unheard of. Even, some sampradayas will say that it's blasphemous. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, what he did, he explains the hierarchy of different forms of God. Nobody else did it before. There is either people say, the mundane scholars, they say they read about, Sattvata religion, they read about Chaturvyuha, they read about Vasudeva Krishna, and they start speculating. They said there were some Vaishnavas, and they were following of Vasudeva Krishna, and then this cult of Vasudeva Krishna merged with Chaturvyuha, which is propounded by the Sattvatas from south, who wrote all this Pancharatra literature. This is a very beautiful, foolish explanation which they give. Completely ridiculous. That there was one was Narayana, and then cult of Vasudeva merged with cult of Narayana, and ridiculous. But you may believe them. They will explain to you, they will show you some proof, and then they will explain it in such a bewildering and beautiful way that you will say, okay, yeah, right, merged, they merged. Two cults merged. And you will not be able, you know, why this is all important, all these points, why this is important, because you will be able to do proper bhajan to Krishna, exclusive bhajan to Krishna, only if you understand all these points. Otherwise, you will not be able. You will not be able to worship Krishna properly, Krishna in Vrindavan. You will worship some other Krishnas, as we said. And another way of interpreting this, Madhvacharya says this. Madhvacharya says, if you make slight discrimination between different forms of Narayan, you're offender. You blasphemer. This is according to Madhvacharya in Mahabharata Tatparya Nirnaya. He actually lists 9 signs or 9 lakshanas of the blasphemer. And one of the signs is that he says this form of Krishna is higher than another form of Krishna. So welcome. And we say it all the time. And according to our Acharya, it should not be done. We should not discriminate. All the forms of Krishna are transcendental. If we try to discriminate between them, we become blasphemous. No. So we say, yes, they are one in Tattva. Definitely, they are all one in Tattva. But they're different in rasa, and they're different in a way they display the potency. The potency is the same in each and every form of Krishna. Kurma is not less potent than Krishna. But Kurma does not display the same extent of potency as Krishna. Why do we say that Krishna's form is the highest form? Because in this form only Bhagavan displays, it's totally unbridled. There's no limitation how he manifests his power. Whereas in other, manifestations of the Lord, he is more restrained. If Kurma would start playing with his friends in the milk ocean, probably it will be very difficult to join. Kurma is restricted. Kurma cannot display, if Kurma started doing some rasa dance, it would be very difficult, and it will not be proper even. Nrisimhadev, he definitely can start doing rasa dance, but I don't think that the followers of Hiranyakashipu will appreciate his rasa dance. He's doing another dance. He's fighting with all these demoniac soldiers. It's a different dance. It's not rasa dance. There's some rasa there, but it's not complete rasa. So this complete classification, very beautiful classification of Vaibhav Roop and Vilas Roop and Swayam Prakash Roop and Prabhav Prakash Roop and all the Chaturvyuhas. This is a unique feature of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu Sampradaya. How to understand all different manifestations of the Lord in a hierarchical manner. And how Krishna is the most complete manifestation, and everything else, including Vasudeva, Pradyumna, Aniruddha, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, is expansions of his expansions. So he explains in a very beautiful way this, and we will spend little time, maybe not the whole lecture, but some basic features of this. We have to very clearly understand what it is, and how Karanagda Kashaya Vishnu, who is Paramatma, is very remote from the original Krishna. Even though it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes even Gopi says this. In Gopi Gita, Gopi says, what is this verse? Gopi Kabha. They say that you're Paramatma, and you came here to help Lord Brahma. Yes, Vikanasa. What is the before verse? The first lines. Nakalu Gotika Nandana Bhavan. You're not the son of Goti. You're not the son of Yashoda. You're Paramatma. So how should we understand this? For that you have to be the follower of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. He is not Paramatma. Paramatma is a very remote manifestation of Krishna. Karandakashaya Vishnu, Garbhadakashaya Vishnu, Kshiradakashaya Vishnu. The few Chaturvyuhas after original Chaturvyuha, which is coming from Krishna. The original Chaturvyuha was manifested in Krishna's pastimes. Balaram is Sankarsana, he is original Vasudeva, and Pradyumna, his son is Pradyumna, and Aniruddha, his grandson is Aniruddha. That's the original Chaturvyuha, but anyway. So the next point, very interesting point, is of course the essence of Krishna and Krishna's pastimes is what? Rasa. That's also completely unique understanding, because even though Shukadev Goswami or Vyasadeva in the third verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, he says that Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. He says that, what is it? Nigamakal Galitam Halam Sukamukhatam Ritam Dravasamitam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam. I just recently heard this explanation that what is this rasa? What is this rasa which is Srimad Bhagavatam is? They say it's Shantaras. And all other rasas are there, but they're little spices to Shantaras. And the understanding is that if let's say Sringara ras, and we say that Srimad Bhagavatam is not describing Shantaras. Krishna is not sitting there under the, under the Vamsivat and not meditating. He didn't invite Gaudis to meditate under Vamsivat. you please come, let's meditate. let's get little Shantaras. No, Shingaras is the highest rasa. That's another completely different interpretation of Gaudya Sampradaya, because everyone says Shingaras is tamasic. Shingaras is not spiritual. Only if Shingarasa is a little spice to Shantaras, it may, give little, transcendental taste. This is how they explain rasa dance. Rasa dance is about Shantaras with little spice of Shingaras. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, no, forget it. Shingaras is the highest. Shantaras is the lowest. There is hardly any place for Shantaras in Vrindavan. There is no place for Shantaras. Actually, there is no place for Shantaras. Nobody is, Durvasa Muni once came to Vrindavan. He was so bewildered that he just ran away from Vrindavan. He was in this Shantaras. He couldn't understand anything. So that's a completely unique way of interpreting Srimad Bhagavatam from the rasa point of view, and how this rasa katha is going on, and this whole 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is the whole rasa katha. Then the next point, the third point, very interesting point and very important point, that again, only Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained this. Nobody else explained this. As much as there are different manifestations of Krishna, and they are hierarchically organized, and there is a very complex and complicated hierarchy of different manifestations of Krishna, as much as they are different, the dhammas of Krishna, where Krishna manifests himself, in different ways. They're also hierarchically organized. They're not all the same. If you go to Sri Sampradaya, Sri Sampradaya will tell you there is 108 Divya Deshas, right? Practically in every Sri Sampradaya temple, you will see some sort of connection with this. And Vrindavan is just one of 108 Divya Deshas, right? Just one of them. And what is the most important Divya Desha? Srirangam is the most important. The next is Tirupati. Why? Because there is more Pashurams, the more hymns written by Alvars about Srirangam than about any other Divya Desha. And in Vrindavan, few, it's a nice place, Vrindavan, no doubt about it. But nobody else. You will understand or you will hear that this is the highest abode of the Lord. And how within Vrindavan, within Goloka Vrindavan, there are different abodes. And how Dwaraka is less, and how Mathura is little higher, and how Vrindavan is the highest. And how in the outer portion of Goloka Vrindavana planet, these are all sections of Goloka Vrindavana. The Vrindavan itself is the innermost portion of Goloka Vrindavana planet, but there are circles, and outside of Vrindavana there is Mathura Dham, outside of Mathura there is Dwaraka Dham, and outside of Dwaraka there is Goloka. And Goloka is as much as there is Vaibhav manifestation of Krishna, opulent manifestation of Krishna. Goloka is the Vaibhav manifestation of Gokula, of Gokula Vrindavan. So that's again subject matter of separate class, maybe together with this, how the hierarchy of. But then in Vrindavan itself, there is also higher and higher places. What is the highest place in Vrindavan? Yeah, first is Gokul, right? In Gokul. What is higher than Gokul? Govardhan is, no, Vrindavan is higher than Gokul. First, in Gokul, Krishna manifests his childhood pastimes, but then he goes to another side of the river, to the western bank of Yamuna river. So Vrindavan is higher. What is higher than Vrindavan? Govardhan is higher than Vrindavan. Why it is higher than Vrindavan? No. Why?
If you take care of all the necessities, also Krishna has
No, you're not. This is a good explanation, but not so rasika. You're not. No, we just repeat it mechanically. We don't know why Govardhan is higher. Govardhan is higher because rasa dance, which Krishna conducts in Govardhan, is exclusively with his intimate gopis, whereas in Vrindavan, all kinds of gopis are there. Completely new gopis are there. Therefore, this is much more intimate place where only his exclusive girlfriends are allowed to take part in it. And what is the highest place? Radhakund. Why Radhakund? Okay, so that we will come. We will come to this point. So even within Vrindavan there is, and therefore, Krishna in Gokul is different than Krishna in Vrindavan. And Krishna in Govardhan is different than Krishna in Vrindavan. And Krishna in Radhakund is completely different than Krishna anywhere else. So again, this you will not hear anywhere. This you will not understand anywhere. This is secrets. This is very big secrets which we should try to learn. And I will explain. So the next specialty of our sampradaya is, and basically this is all manifestation of before we come to this next specialty, this is all manifestation of Krishna's inconceivable energy. Why this specialty of Gaudiya Sampradaya is so important? Because our Sampradaya is called Achintya Beda Beda Tattva. So this Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, this Agatana Gatana Patiyasi Shakti, inconceivable energy, this is all explanation how the inconceivable energy of the Lord is manifesting itself in different dhammas, manifesting different forms of the Lord, different names of the Lord, and different moods and everything else, and how she arranges different Lilas. So the next point is that the parikaras of Krishna, the nature of his associates. And again, there is a hierarchy. It is said just very briefly that, you know, three types of parikaras, three types of associates of Krishna: his parents, his friends, and his girlfriends. They are the manifestation of different energies of Krishna. His parents, the manifestation of Adara Shakti of Krishna. His friends is the manifestation of Krishna himself, and his girlfriends and queens in Dwaraka, the manifestation of Svarupa Shakti of Krishna. So different energies or different ways of producing these associates of Krishna is there also explained. And yeah, and also I forgot to say that dhammas, they exist in three different states. Each and every dhamma of Krishna, each and every abode of Krishna exists in three different states, in prakat, bhauma, and aprakat. So this will explain separately. And then Lila Tattva. This is all, see, this is all these tattvas. Krishna Tattva we have to understand, Bhakti Tattva we have to understand, Dhamma Tattva we have to understand, Parikar Tattva we have to understand, Shakti Tattva we have to understand, and then Lila Tattva is there. Again, very beautiful Lilas are, you know, the explanation of the Lilas, which are there in the 10th Canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, given by Gaudya Vaishnava Acharyas, nobody else gives. Completely unique explanation. How, again, this inconceivable energy of the Lord works in the minutest details, and how we should meditate on these Lilas. Lila Tattva includes two methods of meditation on the Lilas: Mantra Upasanamai and Svarasiki Upasanamai. So how that's another point. And then, of course, you know, then three more points of the specialty of Srimad Bhagavatam and the explanation of Gaudya Vaishnava Acharyas of Srimad Bhagavatam. That's, of course, Aishwarya and Madhurya of Krishna. How they intermingle with each other, how they interact with each other, and how this interaction creates all these different varieties of Krishna's parikars, Krishna's lilas, Krishna's abodes, Krishna's forms, and Krishna's relationship. How this mixture of Aishwarya and Madhurya facilitate this. And then, of course, the crowning point of it is that Parakiya versus Swakiya. That Parakiya rasa or Parakiya relationship is the highest rasa which is there. And the Parakiya is Sarva Rasa Sar. How this Parakiya or legal relationship is the essence of all rasas. As we sing in this song about Vrindavan, Parikrama of Vrindavan. So Parakiya rasa, the best of all rasas. And why Parakiya should be there? It's unheard of. And actually, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to be very bold to explain this in a very explicit way. Sukadeva Goswami is explaining it and he's downplaying it. Rupa Goswami, he's explaining very explicitly following Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. Why? There is a historical incident. Even after Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I believe it was in 17th century. In 17th century, in Jaipur court, there is still a record that somebody was executed because he was explaining Srimad Bhagavatam from the Parakiya point of view. The Parakiya was considered to be completely immoral. And to explain Srimad Bhagavatam from this point of view would be a criminal offense. It could be, I don't know if he was executed or was severely punished, but it was, there are such instances out there. India was so strict. You know, it's not modern India. It's not, you know, internet India, high-tech India. It's a completely different culture. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is explaining this Parakiya rasa and how it is the highest and why it is the highest, why it is higher than Swakiya. And again, not many people understand it properly. And for us to understand it properly, we have to be in a very humble mood. Otherwise, you know, I regularly receive letters, and people are still, you know, the ISKCON followers, they're bewildered. They say, how is that? It's, you know, this, it's so gross, the whole thing. It's, you know, I cannot just understand how it goes on. What's going on there in Vrindavan? What a scandal goes on. So it is difficult. Don't downplay. Don't misunderstand it. It's not easy to understand it properly without this. And then, of course, the last point, but not the least point, is that Srimati Radharani is the highest. How is that possible? You know, even in Vallabha Sampradaya, they revere Srimati Radharani and they speak, you know, these beautiful verses. But they say, you know, Srimati, there are 4 queens of Krishna, 4 favorite queens of Krishna, according to Vallabha Sampradaya. Who are they? Radharani is there, Chandravali is there, Yamuna is there, and Lalita is there. 4 of them. On this, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu says, this is the exclusive, the highest possible rasa with her. And in connection with this, in this prasanga, in this context, Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu explains the different stages of prema, which is prema is just the beginning stage, and then pranaya, and then man, and then first is whatever, sneha, man, pranaya, raga, anuraga, bhava, and mahabhava. And how Srimati Radharani is Mahabhava Swarupini. That's also, you know, where will you hear this? Nowhere, including ISKCON. But of course, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explains this in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, and we have to, with a proper mood, try to understand this by taking shelter of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And then, of course, the very last point is that Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest revelation of truth. That there is nothing higher. And if something is said in Srimad Bhagavatam and not said in another scriptures, that's fine. We don't care. And if something is said in other scriptures but not said in Srimad Bhagavatam, we don't care about these other things. Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest revelation of truth. So that's other features of what how we should understand, and the way how Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu in very, very uniquely explains Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Jiva Goswami, he lists around 20 titles of different commentaries on Srimad Bhagavatam which were written before him. Now it's around 200 commentaries of Srimad Bhagavatam. It's one of the most commented upon scriptures, if not the most commented upon scriptures in whole Vedic literature. It's very unique, but the way Gaudiya Vaishnavas look and explain Srimad Bhagavatam is the most unique and very beautiful. And that's why I said, you cannot really explain it in a cartoon about Krishna. And you will get a distorted impression of what is going on, this whole glorious picture. And the last thing which I will say, very important, that's the very last chapter of Jaiva Dharma. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in this last chapter of Jaiva Dharma, he says that there are two ways of listening Srimad Bhagavatam. He says you can listen Srimad Bhagavatam. Is explaining that the spiritual life starts, the very beginning, the beginning period of spiritual life is called Shravana Dasha. Shravana Dasha is a very important period when we hear properly. Because while we're hearing, very important processes going on, we completely change our consciousness. Through the hearing process, karma actually becomes disempowered. Karma, which is very strong, through the hearing process, all these samskaras and everything else, they will be washed away just by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur there in Jaiva Dharma says that there are two ways of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. One is Kramahina Shravana Dasha. When we hear Srimad Bhagavatam in a very chaotic way. We hear a little bit from here, a little bit from there, this pastime from here, this pastime from there. And we are not really methodically hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Or we hear Srimad Bhagavatam at a certain Skanda Purana, that if you read Srimad Bhagavatam for 1 year, this is the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam in the mode of Tamagun, in the Tamas. Because, you're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam and you already forget which was there before, and you already, you don't know what is going on to be there, and you're totally lost, you're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, fine. So, he said it's tamasic. They say, of course, it can be transcendental if it's in a proper mood, with a proper service mood. But then he says that there is Kramahina Shravana Dasha and there is Kramashuddha Shravana Dasha. And what is Kramashuddha Shravana Dasha? This is when we hear, I will read this. Krishna Lila should be heard in a proper sequence with resolute, enlightened intelligence by a soul thirsting to augment rasa. Then such focused hearing becomes conducive to the actual evocation of rasa. The rasa becoming evoked in the heart. If we hear Srimad Bhagavatam in a proper sequence, it means that with the proper understanding of what's going on. In this manner, hearing the Nitya Lila or Ashtakaliya Lila and the Naimitika Lila, such as birth of Krishna, is Kramashuddha Shravana Dasa. The path of bhajana, constant engagement in this Kramashuddha Shravana, is essential for the proper and successful unfolding of Bhakti Rasa. The sweet relish of Lord's pastimes progressively manifested through committed Kramashuddha Shravana, and thus the hearer's latent taste for Raganuga Bhakti is spontaneously aroused. The hearer thinks, oh, how wonderful is the Sakya Bhava of Subala. I wish to serve Krishna in that mood of camaraderie exhibited by Subala. The eager tendency is called lobha. Pursuing with lobha the devotional sentiments of the residents of Raja is the essence of Raganuga Bhakti. So basically what Bhaktivinoda Thakur is saying, if I understand properly and hear with proper understanding of what's going on, then the lobha, the greed, will be awakened within our heart. Whereas now, we hear something and we remain indifferent. We are not really enamored or charmed by this cartoon. Because it's cartoon. It's not something real. It's not something, it may entertain you for some time, but it will not give you the deeper concentration on this. And without concentration, you will not be able to understand Srimad Bhagavatam. So you have to understand what is going on to get the concentration. And concentration, as Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, the samadhi, the complete concentration on the subject matter, will reveal to you the subject matter. So this is what we are supposed to do. We should understand what is this 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam is about, how to understand it, how to analyze it. Then it will give complete concentration, it will give us taste, it will give us lobha, the desire. And then when desire is there, everything else is done. When you want to be in Vrindavan, Vrindavan is not a cheap place. You may come to Jagannath and say, yeah, I don't mind to be in Vrindavan. Maybe. No, it's not going to work. Vrindavan, you will get Vrindavan only if you're completely absorbed. And how the absorption comes through the desire. And how the desire comes through taste. And how the taste comes if you hear somebody who has the taste. And if you hear somebody who has the taste and who explains all these beautiful subtleties of the Lilas of Krishna, beautiful workings of his inconceivable energy, how it's displayed, then you will say, yeah, far out, I want to be there. I don't want to remain in Bangalore for another few thousand lives. I don't want to be in lockdown of this material world, because we are all in lockdown. Lockdown means we cannot go outside of the material world. We are locked down here. So this is the way out. This is how we should understand this 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And that's why we spent a few more lectures on trying to understand this unique interpretation of Srimad Bhagavatam, revealed, not given, but revealed by Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. And that's why Srila Prabhupada placed the biography of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, because you can only understand Srimad Bhagavatam if you meditate on the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya and his personality and his message. That's the meaning of today's class, and that we can only understand Srimad Bhagavatam as he is in reality, through the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers. Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Hare Krishna. We are taking questions from there. Guru Maharaj, we have questions here too. Prabhu,
okay, couple of questions.
Yeah, okay, we'll take a couple of questions. Okay.
Yeah, please, what are the questions?
Are we taking the questions first from the devotees there in Bangalore? We can do that. No problems.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj, for a wonderful class. Setting the foundation of how to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Regarding you telling about Brahma's pastime, we told about Yogamaya Shakti. And only when the concept Yogamaya, Brahmaji would understand what is Vrindavan. And Vrindadevi also mentioned. We hear about these personalities like Yogamaya Shakti, Vrindadevi, Subhadra Devi, Bhakti Devi. So,
Purnamasi.
In one sense, their functions appear to be the same. But is there any difference?
Yeah, there is difference. There is Yogamaya Shakti, and she manifests herself as Purnamasi in Vrindavan, as an old ascetic woman with little grandson, Madhumangal, as the mother of Sandipani Muni in Krishna's Lilas. And she's in charge of all the Lilas in Vrindavan. But because it's not proper, it would be rasa bas if she would also be too much intimately involved in Krishna's intimate pastimes with the girls of Vrindavana. She makes her own expansion, and Vrindadevi is the expansion of Yogamaya Shakti, who is Purnamasi, specifically for this amorous pastimes of Krishna. So they are the same personality, but with some specialty. Yogamaya is just general understanding. For the pastimes of Krishna in Vrindavan, she takes form of Purnamasi Devi, and for the amorous pastimes, to facilitate the amorous pastimes and arrange them and be involved in them, she comes as a Vrinda Devi. And Subhadra is outside, she's in Dwarka. Yeah, no, she's not in Vrindavan. That's expansion in Dwaraka.
And Bhakti Devi is
Bhakti Devi is Srimati Radharani. Vladini Shakti.
Maharaj, you explained about two tattvas that we need to understand, like Bhava tattva and the Lila tattva and all that. So in that you also mentioned Parikara tattva. Is it the same or what?
Yeah, it's connected. Yeah, we have to understand the real nature of parikaras. You know, again, like if you ask anyone on the street, they will all know Krishna. And if you say whose son is Krishna, they say whose son is Krishna? Vasudeva and Devaki, right? So basically, what does it mean understanding parikaras? But understanding parikaras is understanding the intensity of their love. Why do we say that Yashoda and Nanda are real and Nanda are real parents of Krishna, not Vasudeva and Devaki? Because their love is more. And you can develop the same love to Krishna even without being related to him in a way as Devaki and Vasudeva. So this is all subtleties and how, you know, different parikaras are there in different dhammas, how they facilitate different lilas and manifest appropriate moods. So it's also, there's something to understand there.
What exactly is the meaning of that, the Parikara?
Parikar means associates. Associates.
Can you give few illustrations of intellectually trying to understand that?
If you think that, you know, now I will figure it out. You know, if you try to only not developing the service mode, but trying to, you know, to understand, especially 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. If you try to understand 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that, you know, that this is, there may be different shades and grades of this. Like, you know, some people read it and some people say that this is, yeah, Krishna was a historical personality. And then somebody, you know, there is some theory that that Krishna that it was written after Christ because during Christ, there was killing of the babies, and when Putana was there, she was also killing babies. So many different ways. This is just me. Or some people say that Krishna in Kurukshetra and Krishna in Vrindavan are different Krishnas. Yes, they are different Krishnas. In rasa, they are different. But in tattva, they are the same. But people say that this is, again, some merging was there first. The real Krishna was Kurukshetra Krishna, his historical Krishna, and then some sentimental bhakta from south wrote this Srimad Bhagavatam. So many possible interpretations there. But again, they don't understand how everything is connected and how everything is connected with this Paribhasha Sutra, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. And therefore they say, no. Even other acharyas, when they explain Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, they say, while saying Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam, he means Karandakashaya Vishnu. Why Karandakashaya Vishnu? Because he is Krishna. Why he is Krishna? Because he is Karshati. He draws everything within himself during Pralaya. Therefore, it's Purusha who is being described in this verse, Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. But this is not what Vyasadeva is saying. Vyasadeva is saying Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. This Vrindavan Krishna is Bhagavan Swayam. And that's the main message. The invitation to Vrindavan for us, and we have to be very clear, and for that we need to hear it systematically, and then the greed will come. Okay, Rasa Krida Bharan, please.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj. So we have two questions. The first question is from Anupama Radharani Mataji. The question is, in your class, you mentioned that there are three conditions to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam. The first one being taking the shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, followed by service to the Vaishnavas and association of devotees. Number one, in the previous ages, before the advent of Mahaprabhu, how did the lower classes, the Vaishyas and Shudras, take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet when they did not or could not fulfill the above conditions? The Varnashram system did not give easy access to the lower classes to accept a guru in the Guru Parampara. And then there's another one which I can ask after you.
Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu came and he actually he basically quite, strongly abandoned Varnashrama system in the sense that he accepted Haridas Thakur as his, very intimate companion and associate. He glorified Rupa and Sanatana, who were outcast. So Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to reveal something which was not revealed before him. Before him, people could understand God, and some understanding was there through different means, and therefore Srila Vyasadeva wrote Mahabharata. And this Mahabharata, as explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, was written for Shudras and for Vaishyas and for women. So by reading Srimad Bhagavatam, you can get attachment to the Lord. By reading Ramayana, you can get attachment to the Lord. There is no bar on this. You can belong to any caste or creed and still read Puranas or Srimad Bhagavatam or Mahabharata or Ramayana and develop some attachments towards the Lord. But Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu came to reveal the highest meaning of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Mahabharata. To understand this, we can only through this parampara. And in this parampara, there is no restriction of caste and creed, and we're all a living manifestation or living proof of this. So before Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, people were not able to understand Krishna in Vrindavan properly. Maybe very rare souls, but it was not available. It was not accessible. This meaning was there, but it was not accessible to people. Maharaja Pariksit could do it because he heard it directly from Shukadev Goswami, but others, and that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. We have another, so there is one more part to her question, and then we will ask the last question from Ankush Prabhu.
Yes, last, because I'm
yeah.
ready.
Yes. So second one is, in the present times, we see that some people are devotees of Lord Krishna without accepting a guru in the disciplic succession. Do these devotees get Krishna Prem without accepting a guru? How important is it to accept a guru in the Guru Parampara?
No. No, it's not possible to get Krishna Prema. It's not possible even to get Nishta if you don't have Guru. You can practice it, but even to get Nishta, you have to become more humble than the blade of grass, and how it is possible without Guru? So I have to run. Thank you very much.
Is there last question you can take or no?
No. Next time. Somebody's...
Yeah. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, Guru Maharaj, for this wonderful session and association. We won't hold you up, and we look forward to the next session next Saturday. His Holiness Bhakti Vijnana Goswami Maharaj ki.
Lila
Prabhupada ki. Hare Krishna. Thank you. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhya vacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavabhyo namo.